Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. This is Bobby Mills for theindependent.com with another version of Bobby Mills Independent Sports Talk. We're gonna switch gears tonight, folks. Football season is now ended, as is volleyball. The All-State team's coming out soon, but now all the focus is on basketball, boys and girls, and of course wrestling, which we'll not cover right now. But Jim Langen with us once again. Eric Williams, as usual, behind the camera. Zach Mayhew. We're going to talk some boys basketball today. There's a lot of good area teams around, fellas. Jimmy, you've done some Jubilee games. You running any great teams yet or not?
Well, I think Elm Creek's going to be pretty good in class. I worked them in a Jubilee game. And
good in football, good in basketball.
Yeah, I think they're going to be pretty good in D1. It looks to me like in Class A, if we stop there, Kearney High's going to have a pretty good team. I think they're ranked in the top 10 in most papers.
Yeah.
They've got this kid named McCoster that's really had a really good summer too. He had a really good year last year as a sophomore. But he had a good summer league, and so there's some teams looking at him. And I think Kearney High's loaded. They had a nice football team, like you say too.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be a team to reckon with. It'll be interesting to see how they do in Class A.
Yeah.
What do you know about Grand Island High, guys?
I think there's going to be a lot of depth there. I mean, last year they struggled, obviously, record-wise, win-loss, but you had a lot of guys get experience on the court. I think they've got 7 returners that have starting potential, so there's going to be a lot of depth on them. I don't know how good they're going to compete. I think Kearney, like you said, is going to be one of the top ones. I think probably Grand Island will probably be in middle of the road, probably advance maybe to the finals in a district depending on how they get paired up. But it's going to be, I think they're going to improve on last year's record just by the experience, and maybe kind of a 500 club would be what I'd say.
Well, give Coach Slough some time. When he arrived, these were all little bitty guys. They just had a hard time competing. Now you say they're 7 deep. Shay Shannon was a pretty good little player. So, at least they're building up some strength down there in numbers.
Steve Hartman's helping too.
Is he?
Yeah,
really?
Steve Hartman
Well,
used to be at Doniphan Trumbull and Beatrice, and a lot of success in his assistant coach.
Good grief, yes.
Yeah, so I think, you got 2 guys. Slough played for him at Doniphan Trumbull.
Yeah, you did.
So he's coming over and he's going to help out, and I think. I think they'll compete hard. Like you say, scoring's going to be a difficulty for them at times, but if they can compete hard and play good defense, and scoring's kind of weird. There's times you can take an ill-advised shot, and guess what? It goes in.
I know.
And there's other times you get a good look and it doesn't go in. So basketball, there are some upsets that occur because of that.
It'll be interesting how physical they can get down low. I know there's a lot of perimeter guys out there, so how that physicality is down in the post will be interesting.
Sure. And Class B, we've got a #1 team preseason in almost every poll in Aurora, and they bring everybody back, including Austin Allen. Of course, we know about him. They are such a formidable team early on that I know that Tino Martinez has them going up against Omaha South in the Heartland Hoops Classic.
Yeah,
agreeable by both teams. So, that's how good and well respected Aurora is, and of course that's going to be pretty good.
Who else is some good players on Aurora's team? Do you have some other ones?
Well, Leininger, the coach's boy.
Oh, yeah. He signed someplace. I don't know where he signed. I saw it in the paper where he's going to go play. And I tell you, I liked that team last year. I thought they had a lot of things they did well. And they were a bunch of like a year away from being ranked #1. You know what I mean? Yeah, and they could have won the whole thing. You know what I mean? But sometimes you're going, hey, we're just maybe 1 year away. Sometimes you luck out and you win a couple, 2 or 3 state championships in a row. Doesn't happen very often.
No.
Even when Atkinson was told that they're great teams, they got upset.
They did.
And their senior year they got upset. So there's no guarantees in this. You know what I mean? But Aurora's going to have a nice season. I think stay injury free.
Yeah, that's going to be the big thing. Austin Allen had that knee injury in the offseason. Can he stay healthy throughout? Because that's going to be their workhorse. I mean, they've got 5 starters, but Austin Allen's going to be the key to that team.
But they've got a good supporting cast. And they've got sneaky guys, not Henry Penner. He's had a great summer. There's people looking at him too, and he's big. But this Cade Morrell, he'll sneak up on you on the outside and bury threes. So, Allen's going to have some help. I would say if he only had a couple of people with him, that might put some pressure on that. Of course, he's a hard competitor, so.
Did that, Grand Island Central Catholic has a tournament they play that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Boy,
talk about a loaded group of teams in that, Omaha, Scott, et cetera. But Chip Boz, the new head coach at Grand Island Northwest. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't know how it could go he's got to do well. The guy knows a lot, comes straight from Hastings College, and what did he coach before that?
Millard North.
Millard.
He was at Lexington High School. He started off at Lexington, you know, and he played football for the Huskers, you know what I mean? I mean,
yeah.
the guy's been around. He's a competitor. I'll tell you what, he will entertain you. I worked a state tournament game in front of quite a few, maybe 12,000 to 15,000 people, and he was talking to me, you know, as we're going, and I mean, he's going to have kids compete. And one thing about it with Chip is it's kind of interesting with Chip. Chip's one of those guys that, you know, if something happens out on the court, he wants his players to take care of it. He's not going to tell them, hey, back off. Hey, we might lose this basketball game, but we're not going to lose this.
Yeah.
You know, so he likes to compete, and he'll find different ways, and he's proud of his players, and he's going to teach them a few things in that direction. You know what I mean? And it'll be interesting to see what kind of players he is. I know he's not loaded like Aurora or someplace
very
like
young.
that. Right, exactly.
I will say, if you're ever going to officiate one of their games, you better get the track shoes ready to go because you're going to be running, I think, a lot up and down the court.
I think you're right. In the past, as Chip, like you said, you're going to be playing 94 feet here. We're going to go up and down the court. Is that still probably what he's planning on doing?
I think with a young team, you're going to implement that speed, and he's got speed.
He does.
There's a lot of good guys that are coming out of the football, so they're going to be well conditioned, ready to go, and he's got some speed in some of those guys. Can you control the ball and handle it in that speed is going to be the key out of that, and the transition offense out of it. But yeah, I do think they're going to be running it up and down the court the whole time.
And you know, sometimes when you're coaching like that, you're going to look at that schedule and you're going to have like 20 games, and you go, hey, you know what? These 12, I think we can win. These 4, we might be able to upset somebody.
Yeah.
You know, and there's 4 other games, and 2 you should win easily, and 2 you're really outmanned. You know, so you have to look at your schedule and kind of look when you think, hey, who am I going to practice again this week? So sometimes there's an art to how do you win 8 games, 9 games, 10, whatever the number is that you're supposed to win.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose it by trying to do too much, trying to upset somebody that you have no right to beat.
Well,
you know,
and
right?
you just look right at their beginning of their schedule this year. You start out with Central City, probably one of those games that you could look at right away, get on the board, and then you go right to Saturday against the top 10 team in Norris. So I mean, that's kind of how you're talking about is how you set up for some of those wins.
That's a coach talking right here, and I like the way Jimmy's talking because that's how O'Neill won a state football championship. Brock Eichelberger knew how to use these players, utilize everyone, and approach games like that. I don't think there's any other way to do it. You know?
I think
you can't just beat your head against the wall if you're playing Gretna.
Right.
You know, I mean, if you're so.
You know, and Hastings High, back to Class B, Hastings High be an interesting team this year. They almost beat Aurora last year. They had them on the ropes. They had a couple games where they had people right on the ropes, and some just snuck by. You know, this just, you know, you kind of quit scoring there with about 8 minutes to go, you know, and some things like that. But I mean, he's got 2 boys. He's got 2 of his sons. So you talk about your players. Go ahead.
No, go ahead because
you
that big tall kid, the tall boy, can shoot, man. It's a good ball player.
You look at the last 3 years; they've gotten better year after year after year, and now you've got some of that experience. They had a young group last year that, like you said, were on the cusp. So you've got some of that experience coming back, and you're improving year after year after year. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they continue that up climb and maybe compete late into a district.
Sure.
Is Zane Bender going to be their big kid, the guy that does most of the shooting? I'm just wondering about that because they lost their big gun, but he's got a good balance this year. You can't beat the coach.
Yeah,
He's
coaching a game or 2, hasn't he?
Yeah.
How about C1? Have you got like Central Catholic, GICC? I see that they're ranked like 10th or 9th in some of the papers. Is that what you guys got, or is it higher than that?
No, it's 9.
Okay, all right.
And Lincoln comes out tomorrow night, I suppose, but World here on Saturday. That's a tough class. Wow, and whoever was good in football in that class, you can almost bet O'Neill is going to be good. Bishop Newman, my goodness. Centennial Conference. And don't forget about Donovan Trumbull either in Class C.
C2,
We'll get to there, but Central Catholic they should have a pretty good ball club.
They're going to be physical. I mean, that's what there's going to be down low. They're going to be young as well too, so it'll be interesting to see how they get going right away. Obviously, you also got Kearney Catholic right above them too. And Gothenburg. So there's a lot of experience ahead of them. So that young group's going to have to grow up fast, I think, for that Central Catholic crew.
Yeah, what's going to be interesting with Kearney Catholic is they're going to have a kind of a mixed schedule. You know, because they're leaving the Loup Platte Conference after this year, so they will be playing some Loup Platte Conference foes. But you know, their opening week they play, I think, Beatrice.
Are you kidding?
And
What a
Holdridge.
way to
And
open.
Holdridge. You know what I mean? So they're playing in some Class B schools right out of the gate. You know, and then they'll play Ord, you know, and then they're scheduled kind of, you know, and their holiday tournament, they've always played St. Pat's. But Kearney Catholic would be an interesting team, I think, you know, in the C1 area, like you said too, you know. And, you know, when you talk about the conference, Centennial Conference, you got SCOTUS, you got Newman, and I think that's who St. Cecilia opens up with the first week.
Yeah.
They play SCOTUS and Newman. Last year, they started out the season 0-2 and then won like 27 in a row.
Yeah.
I think maybe they got beat by SCOTUS again or Newman again in their tournament, but they had a great year and you know, won the state championship in C2. So.
Didn't let them get it, didn't get them down. They knew, you know, with that coming off
But
that.
that'll be an interesting, you know, their first 4 games, I think they also played Doniphan Trumbull and Blue Hill. And Doniphan Trumbull and Blue Hill had some success in football. So St. Cecilia's first 4 games are going to be very competitive.
And Kearney Catholic is so tough to play, you know, especially when Donnie Lease used to be there. Boy, they'd play such a, I hate to use the word, it was almost like ragtag, but they'd make the shots.
Well, Carlin does the same thing. He didn't change it a
those-
bit. They go 100 mile an hour. And you talk about getting your track shoes off.
Oh.
I don't know which way to
How about
run.
that official?
When I'm doing a Kearney Catholic, I just don't know which way I'm supposed to be running here.
You want to be that middle guy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's just what you're just afraid to play them. I don't care if you're Boys Town or SCOTUS or who you are.
How about the Loup Platte Conference? St. Paul, Wood River, Gibbon, Centura. You know, you got anything on any of those teams? Ravenna? Do you have any?
I think Donovan, you know, Adam Central's a funny case in point too, because they've lost almost everybody
Yeah.
but Bolin. And it's gonna be interesting to see how he reacts after not getting the ball distributed by other guys that can shoot. He's gonna have a lot of pressure on him this year.
Yeah,
you know?
probably. Well, you know, he did a really good job. He was
He
a good
did.
shooter last
Oh,
year.
scary.
He probably doesn't have it. And I don't know. Adam Central sometimes just reloads. You know, and so we'll have to see kind of what happens. I don't even know if Adam Central's in the conference anymore. I think they might have pulled out of the Loup Platte.
In basketball, I
Yeah, I
think.
think so. But I mean, I know some of this, they're still playing some of the
Yeah.
Loup Platte teams on their schedule and will continue some of those close relationships with some of those when you have 18 games. But I mean, like I said, I don't know. I mean, I'll have to look at, somebody else will probably know what conference tournament they're going to go to, if they're
Yeah.
going to go to the Central 10 or if they're going to go to
I forgot about that, but
the Loup Platte, yeah, which tournament they'll go to, right?
But don't think Donovan Trumbull won't have a good team. And St. Cecilia both in St. Cecilia C2, I think.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they're C2.
But, and Donovan and Ord also. Don't forget about them.
They're
'cause they had
C1, and they play Kearney Catholic real early in the season
Caden
too.
Dodd,
Yeah,
great
that's
player.
right.
They've got a good, and they'll compete. They've last.
Dave Bowman's got his, team over
Yeah,
at Centura,
yeah,
you know,
can't-
and
you can't
yeah.
put and they've got some speed too, and they had some shooters that are returning this year as well. You know, St. Paul also has some athletes too, so it will be interesting to see exactly how those guys gel into that basketball routine after the football.
Sure. Yeah, but Wood River's got a new coach this year
Yeah.
too, so, you know, and Gibbon, I think, you know, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how those two teams
Yeah.
participate and compete. And Ravenna the second year without Coach Baranek, you know what I mean,
Oh,
playing. They struggled a lot last year, but we'll see what they put out on the floor here. And I mean, it's exciting to play. You know, my dad one time told me, he said, you know, the funnest thing to do is to play poker and win. But he said,
Yeah.
but the second funnest thing to do is to play poker and lose. You know, so,
That's
you know, one thing
exactly-
about basketball, you know, it's fun to go out and compete and do what you can. And I played a lot of games and there was a lot of times we lost, but I still had a good time.
Oh.
It was fun, and the social skills you gather, and et cetera. It's not all about winning, you know, and you want to try to win. You compete as good as you can, but just be, you know, you can gain some things out of a loss every once in a while and get better for the next week,
I
too.
think that's a good point. I bet you didn't even look up at the scoreboard at times because you were having fun.
Yeah,
You're just playing the game, man.
I hate to say it, but I knew what the damn score.
Well,
I wasn't having that much fun. Sounded good, I just said it because we're on.
who am I trying to kid? I did the same thing with
Yeah,
football.
I knew every damn score.
Yeah, you gotta
Can
look
you
up.
swear on this show?
Well, you know, if it has a double meaning, it's all right. So anyway, but yeah, you know what? Blue Hill's got a good team, but we'll drop down. You know, and also, well, no, they're in C. We'll drop down to Class D1.
Okay.
And Heartland and Ale. You talked about Elm Creek already. Surely that big kid doesn't play. No. Gosh, I would think he'd wrestle, wouldn't he?
He plays.
He plays.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
look out! And Brock Miner's there, and oh my, that's a good. But I don't know who the coach is. Who coaches basketball?
I can't tell you right now. I'm not going to get into that because if I start naming coaches and I forget one, I'll feel bad.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean?
I'm not sure, but
His name's Tanner Cavity, but what the thing of it is,
hey, that's a good basketball.
but yeah, he does a great job. But don't put me on the spot on that, 'cause
No.
if I forget a coach's name, you know,
Yeah.
my age, You know, I gotta have it right here on
Me
my piece
too.
of paper before I look it up. Now, Mike Riley's head coach of Nebraska football. I can get you that one, but.
Yeah, at least you know
Yeah,
that.
do you know that?
Apparently not.
No, but he does a really good job over there. And last year they got beat by Kennesaw in a sub-district final. You know, or they'd have gone to the state tournament. You know, Kennesaw ended up going to state, and I think they got hit pretty good by graduation.
They did,
you know,
yeah.
that,
Tell me, here's a funny thing,
Okay,
Jimmy, and
yeah.
you too,
Yeah.
Eric. How about Amherst? How can they remain so good in basketball when they've got such a formidable wrestling program? That basketball coach that I have to fight tooth and nail to get kids not, to maybe come from wrestling to basketball because that's such a wrestling town.
Well,
Well, yet they are good every year.
I think, sometimes they have a tremendous wrestling program, no doubt about it. But I think in basketball, sometimes if you got 3, 4 kids that are fairly successful, and then you got 2 or 3 others that happen to couldn't decide if they're going to wrestle or play basketball. They might go basketball, they might wrestle, but you kind of look around and you kind of see, hey, what can I do to compete and what can? And that's kind of what's happened there. And so Amherst has got some players that are pretty good back. And one thing about when you get into D1 and D2, if you have 2 good players, you're probably going to be pretty good. You know what I mean?
Two's about what it takes, doesn't it?
Well, what I'm saying, you're going to be probably pretty good. You're not going to win the state championship, but you're going to have some success. There's times you're going to have 1 good player, and you're going to win a lot of games. But if you have 2 pretty good ones, but anything over 2, you're going to be really good. And that's what Amherst had last year in C2. They were D1 and just barely went into the enrollment, and they made it to the Final Four. But they were 7-8 deep. They got hit hard by graduation, but they do have 2 or 3 back, and we'll see what those other kids probably got a little bit better practicing all year.
Yeah, you kind of look at what St. Cecilia talked about. They've got back-to-back state championships, and these kids coming up, they practice against state champions for 2 years. So
Yeah.
he's expecting a lot of things out of St. Cecilia. Same way with Amherst, and same way with all these successful groups is you're practicing day in and day out, and you're growing that way as a freshman and sophomore. And eventually, once you get up to that junior, senior year, you're that level as well, and you just don't think about it at the time.
At Amherst, they got a really good point guard. His dad's the assistant
How
coach.
about holding that college?
And at SEM, Sumner Eddyville Miller, the head coach there's Line, and he's got a boy that
boy, is
plays.
he a
And
good
he played quarterback and defensive back for him. He had a lot of success there. Last year, he was one of the better basketball players in the Fort Kearney Conference.
Yes, he was.
I think he made the Kearney Hub. I know this is the Independent, but he made the Kearney Hub all-area team, first team of the top 5 players. So that was a tough group to make. And so it'll be interesting to see what SEM does. Sumner Eddyville Miller, are they ranked in the top 10?
They are.
aren't they?
They cracked it. They're above Crawford at 9 right now. So.
Right.
You know what? The Kearney Hub does a good job picking the teams as a Grand Island.
Yeah, both
So
of
that
them.
was a legitimate pick for
Yeah,
Line to be on
right.
that first
Thank you.
team.
You bet.
It was, Jimmy. You know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we did once every once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I did want to mention that Eckhout kid from Amherst.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too.
What a player. Heartland, good football team. They're ranked number 4 preseason. They, of course, Austin Stewart, Connor Bear's a good ball player down there too. And oh my, I don't think there's anybody else in the area. We don't consider BDS, of course, in our area, but that's a pretty good. We do consider in Class D2 Riverside, the 6-man football team.
Yeah, there we go.
Noah Velocic, how long is he going to be out? I'm thinking he won't come back before Christmas. Broken collarbone, maybe.
Yeah.
So, and they'll have to have somebody take up the slack there. But Joey Imus is a genius. So Riverside will always be formidable. Played good defense there in that Goldenrod Conference, which is a good conference.
How will Burwell be? Talking
know
about
what?
wrestling programs, talking about Amherst and wrestling. What about Burwell? A lot of those kids wrestle, don't
I
they?
think they do,
Yeah,
Jimmy.
so, yeah.
And Tyler Gideon and all those guys, I think they go out for wrestling. So
Does Burwell and Sargent co-op in wrestling? That'd be
that's a
amazing.
good quote. Ooh, my
Yeah, look at
goodness.
that group. What do you think those practices are like? They may not be very good after December. Going to be beating each other up. all
Yeah,
the
but
time.
well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's, SEM is in there.
Yeah.
But, I don't know who the Schroeder kid, are these Schroeder kids brothers? What is it, Zarin and Nathan?
I don't know for sure. I don't think they are. For some reason, I don't think they are, but I'm not positive on that.
But that line, you average 20 points a game and nearly 10 rebounds. That's gonna be a good basketball team, and I think they run and gun. I think they do.
Yeah, I think they're going to keep they've tried to run and gun, and they didn't back down to Amherst either last year. But Amherst just had a
Well,
little
that
too
was
many. Yeah. too many guns.
Did you officiate that game? That was a
I
great
did.
game.
I did in the regular season. Yeah,
Okay.
the regular season game. I sure did. It was at Amherst last year.
I just want to, there's some players that we want to mention here, and you guys will know them all, of an area that should be mentioned. Of course, Austin Allen from Aurora, David Boland from Adams Central, and Allen's classmate Tommy Leininger. This is a heck of a lineup. Cannon Coster, and then we forgot about Techmeyer from Kearney
Yeah.
High.
Oh, yeah.
What about that
See
kid?
it. Yeah, it's going to be a great,
Ooh,
He's
great
got a high
combo
ankle
right
sprain,
there.
I guess, right now. So he's been kind of a little injury right now.
Well-
Who else have you got? Who else do you
Well, see, Brady Holtmeyer, of course,
Okay.
and then Shiloh Robinson. That's the kid that played a pretty good amount of times as a freshman, didn't he?
Right.
He's what 6'4" maybe? 6'6". He grew over the summer. And Adelung.
Yeah,
From
that's the
Amherst.
kid that was the assistant coach from Amherst. I thought really did a good job. Really could pick a lot of pockets out front. Yeah, but he had more steals one-on-one than any kid I've refereed.
Oh boy, he's a pickpocket. It's not a sin to steal in Amherst.
No.
Not when you have a basketball uniform. And then you're a kid you saw play football, kind of a mean motor scooter, Brady Rohde. He's a good basketball player. I don't know if you've ever. He doesn't look like he plays football on the basketball court. Not the time I saw him.
He did. He looked good.
He looks all right. I thought, what's it? How many fouls is this kid?
I've refereed a couple games where I wish those guys would have never done that because there was no one thing about it. There's some guys that put on that football jersey and they come play basketball. Well, nobody in the place doesn't think it's a foul, so it's easy to referee them. They fouled
Yeah.
so hard there was
Yeah.
and those guys are a lot easier to referee than. And one of them used to play at Wood River.
Where would he be?
Tell you, there's one reason I didn't play basketball. It wasn't physical enough, so I went and played ice hockey instead.
Yeah,
So-
there you go.
And you've got all, folks, he has all
I
his
do
teeth.
have all
How
my
about that?
teeth.
He's got all his teeth. Before we close, I just wanted to know you guys' thoughts. Do you think that football, which is incredible up at St. Paul, can carry over to the basketball court? I don't know. Do they have the same coach back at St. Paul this year? I think they do, as far as head coach in basketball. I don't see why that can't carry over. They look like they had some spark last year, but they were just outmanned in sub-districts where I had their game. But
Yeah, I thought.
Do you think that'll carry
I
over?
like the body language they had. They got beat in the game I worked against Boone Central.
Well,
Boone
it
Central
was-
beat.
yeah,
they-
it was-
But what I'm saying is I did like the body language of the St. Paul kids, the way they
I did
competed,
too.
and so it'll be interesting to see. Somebody in that Loup Platte conference is going to take off and finish like second or third. We just don't know who that team might be this year. Be interesting to see. Good point.
they've got Miles Griffith, who can shoot the heck out of the ball and is a state high jump champion,
Yeah.
I think. And then my nephew Carson Morgan, the big kid underneath, and then of course the
Yeah,
quarterback.
they might be.
Rubalewski.
They might be really good. In fact, they might be that sleeper.
I do think that they could probably do that. It's just going to be, how quickly can they transition into the court? I mean, I think they do have the talent there to be a competitor in that Loup Platte Conference.
Knowing how to win, doesn't
Yeah.
that make a big difference? I sure hope Grand Island Senior High does good because I really like Coach Slough over there.
It's another team that we forgot about real quick in a Fort Kearney conference is Loomis. Loomis went undefeated in
Until they-
football and then went down and won a playoff game and then got beat by Ansley Litchfield. But I think they were 10-0 when they played that
They
game.
were
Is that
undefeated,
right?
Jimmy,
And and Drew Billiter does coaches over there, and they made it to the Final Four last year in the Fort Kearney Conference tournament. SCM and Elm Creek got upset in that tournament. You know what I mean? So it's kind of interesting when you look and you see a little bit, but just make it to your Final Four. And the same thing's true in the Centennial Conference. The Loup Platte Conference, just getting to the Final Four is really tough. We talked about that in volleyball, girls volleyball,
know.
in the Loup Platte. We talked about all year long, and I mentioned it about Centura,
Yep.
and I kept bringing them up. I said these other 4 teams are winning and they're undefeated, but what Centura and Adams Central and Loup City Arcadia are doing, they might jump in there, and the next thing you know, they're in there as well as the St. Sioux girls. So sometimes you just keep competing and getting after it. The season's not going great, but if you get better in February, you get to be playing in March.
Yep, and Jimmy, you can personally kick me right in the rear end if I don't go to that conference tournament, that Fort Kearney, because I've never been there, and you're nuts if you don't go to the you know, the semifinals and finals.
But yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's good. You'd have a great
And
time.
how about the venue? Woo.
Oh yeah, I could get you in free.
That's a nice place. Well, we've covered boys basketball here. We'll be covering girls basketball in just a little bit. So for Zach Mayhew behind the camera, Eric Williams, and of course the venerable, you're venerable tonight, Jimmy Lang and Bobby Mills with Independent.com. We'll be back with some girls basketball a little bit later.